You know how it is the world just throws so much at us constantly
Mm-hmm.
between like the nonstop information and everything demanding our attention. It's easy to feel like your mind's just stuck in the mud, right?
Absolutely. That feeling of mental fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. We've all had that brain fog or, totally blanking on someone's name or just feeling like your focus has, well, checked out.
Definitely.
But what if we could actually train our brains, make them sharper, more resilient, ready for, well, pretty much anything?
That's the big question.
Could adding these like daily mental challenges into our lives actually be the secret? Could it really, boost our cognitive horsepower?
Well, what's really fascinating and maybe hopeful is just how adaptable our brains are. They aren't static at all. They're
Right.
constantly changing, rewiring themselves based on what we do and experience. That's neuroplasticity in a nutshell.
Neuroplasticity. Okay.
Yeah, the brain's power to make new connections, strengthen old ones. And the really exciting part is that research keeps showing this whole process is like fueled by stimulation, by novelty.
So new challenges basically wake the brain up.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Every time you challenge your brain, you're essentially paving new roads, building new pathways in your mental landscape.
Okay, okay. So let's explore that idea a bit more, this brain as a muscle thing.
Precisely.
It's this incredibly complex network, right? Something like 86 billion neurons.
That's the number, yeah. And trillions of connections between them. It's staggering.
Wow. And it really seems like there's this fundamental principle. If you don't use those connections, well, you might lose them.
Precisely. It's the classic use it or lose it principle applied to the brain. And organizations like the National Institute on Aging, they've done a lot of work on what's called cognitive reserve.
Cognitive reserve,
Yeah.
like a backup supply.
Kind of, yeah. Think of it as the brain's resilience. Its ability to cope with, say, age-related changes or even potential damage, and a really key way to build up that reserve, consistently doing activities that get your mental gears grinding.
And there's actual data on this, isn't there? I saw something about a study, 2019, I think, neurology.
That's a significant one.
It found that people who regularly did things like reading or puzzles or learning new skills, they had something like a 47% lower risk of mild cognitive impairment, MCI.
That's right, almost half the risk. It really highlights just how impactful keeping your brain active can be for long-term health.
47%.
Yeah.
That's huge. What really struck you about that finding?
Just how big that number is, honestly. It really hammers home the power of consistent mental engagement. And it's so important we remember this isn't just about older adults.
Right, it affects everyone.
Yeah. In today's world, the always-on culture, the screens, people of all ages can feel that mental drag, that cognitive dip.
Okay, so let's flip that coin. What happens if we don't give our brains that workout? What are the consequences of mental neglect? It feels like it's got to be more than just forgetting where you put your keys sometimes.
Oh, it definitely is. You're right. Prolonged periods of low mental stimulation or even just passive consumption can really trigger a kind of chain reaction.
Like what?
Well, we often see memory impairment first, that really frustrating brain fog, right? Struggling to recall names, dates, recent events.
I know that feeling.
Then there's focus. It diminishes. It gets harder to concentrate on tasks, which obviously hits productivity. Problem solving can start to feel slower, more effortful.
Okay.
And maybe surprisingly, a sluggish mental state can even tie into mood disorders. Things like anxiety, even depression, or just low self-esteem. It's all quite interconnected.
That link between feeling sharp mentally and your actual mood, that's really interesting. But it makes sense, doesn't it? If you feel like you're not firing on all cylinders mentally, it's bound to affect how you feel overall.
Absolutely. And then you look longer term, and the implications get even more serious. There was a study in The Lancet back in 2021.
Yeah.
It estimated that maybe 40%, 0% of dementia cases worldwide could potentially be prevented or delayed.
Wow. 40%?
Yeah, through lifestyle changes. And actively engaging our minds is a huge piece of that puzzle. That statistic really screams urgency, making proactive brain health a priority for all of us, starting now.
Okay, so if ignoring our minds has these pretty serious downsides, what's the good news? It sounds like these daily mental challenges can be like the antidote. How do they actually fight back against this cognitive stagnation?
Think of it like targeted exercise, but for different parts of your brain. Different challenges engage different cognitive skills, memory, attention, reasoning, what scientists call executive functions.
Executive functions.
Yeah.
Like the CEO of the brain.
Huh. Yeah, kind of like the control center, planning, organizing, decision making. So, by regularly stimulating these different areas, you're basically strengthening the neural networks behind them, making those mental roads smoother and faster.
And what kind of actual benefits can people expect if they start doing this stuff daily? It's not just about getting good at crosswords, is it?
Oh, not at all. Though getting good at crosswords is fun. But no, improved memory is a big one. You might notice both short-term recall and your ability to access long-term memories getting better with practice, like with memory games or just actively learning new things.
Okay, memory boost. What else?
Focus tends to sharpen up too. Activities like puzzles or strategy games, they really train your brain to sustain attention and filter out distractions.
Makes sense.
And yeah, as you guessed, problem-solving skills often get more refined. Regularly tackling analytical tasks like Sudoku or maybe chess sharpens that ability.
I can definitely see how wrestling with a tough Sudoku or planning chess moves would help with logic. But what about creativity? Can these exercises really make us more innovative?
Well, what's really interesting there is how learning totally new skills, say a language or a musical instrument, forces you to think in different ways. It encourages what psychologists call divergent thinking.
Divergent thinking.
Yeah, the ability to explore lots of possibilities, generate novel ideas. Imagine learning Spanish and suddenly understanding an idiom that gives you a completely fresh angle on something. It's not just about pure cognitive skills either.
Hmm.
Even practices like mindfulness can seriously boost emotional resilience, helping you manage stress, regulate emotions better, and that clearer, calmer state. It indirectly supports sharp thinking and creativity too.
And that long-term benefit seems critical, this idea of delaying cognitive decline.
Right.
Building that cognitive reserve you mentioned earlier sounds like creating a really vital buffer for later life.
It absolutely is. There was a big meta-analysis in 2020 in psychological science. It found cognitive training programs, things like puzzles, skill learning, led to pretty noticeable improvements.
Mm.
On average, like a 20 to 30% boost in cognitive performance in healthy adults. And the really cool part, those effects could last for up to 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, those are real, tangible gains that can make a huge difference to quality of life as we get older.
You brought up mental fatigue earlier, and that seems like such a big hurdle for so many of us trying to stay sharp. It's not always about not engaging our brains enough, right? Sometimes it feels like we're just overloaded or
Oh.
doing the wrong things.
That's a really crucial point. Mental fatigue isn't just one thing. It can come from cognitive overload, just too much information, too many demands, but it can also come from understimulation.
Understimulation, like boredom.
Sort of, yeah. When our brains aren't being challenged in meaningful ways. Either way, it's that feeling of your mental gas tank being totally empty. And it really hits our performance and just our general sense of well-being.
So what are some common culprits here? I know for me, after a marathon day, staring at screens or juggling intense work stuff, I just feel completely wiped out mentally.
Oh, yeah. Overwork and chronic stress are huge factors. When you're constantly under pressure, your brain pumps out more cortisol, the stress hormone. And there was research in Nature, 2022, I believe, linking prolonged high cortisol to actually shrinking the hippocampus.
Shrinking the hippocampus, that's the memory center,
A
right?
key area for memory, exactly. So chronic stress literally impacts brain structure. But ironically, a lack of variety can also cause fatigue.
How so?
Doing the same repetitive tasks over and over, or just passive stuff like endlessly scrolling social media, it doesn't really engage the brain in a revitalizing way. It leads to stagnation, that feeling of mental exhaustion.
And I guess our general lifestyle choices feed into this too. Sleep, diet, exercise.
Yeah.
It all seems connected.
Absolutely. Poor sleep is a massive one. The World Health Organization, they've reported that a really significant chunk of adults suffer cognitive issues just from not getting enough sleep.
Makes sense. You feel it the next day.
Totally. Then there's poor nutrition, not giving your brain the right fuel. Lack of physical exercise, crucial for blood flow to the brain. And you hit it with digital overload, that constant barrage of notifications, the way screens fragment our attention. It really strains our working memory. A 2023 study highlighted that specifically with social media use.
So this mental fatigue,
Yeah.
it sounds like it creates ripples everywhere. Work, studying, even relationships.
It really does, academically. Trouble concentrating in lectures, difficulty retaining what you study professionally. It can lead to mistakes, missed deadlines, weaker problem solving.
Yeah, I can see that.
And socially, like you said, it can make you irritable, find it hard to engage in conversations, maybe even withdraw a bit. Over time, this can snowball into full-blown burnout.
Burnout, yeah, hearing that word a lot.
It's a serious state of exhaustion, emotional, physical, and mental. And as we touched on before, for older adults, letting the mind become too sedentary can really accelerate that age-related decline, increasing risks for conditions like Alzheimer's.
Okay, right. So let's shift to the solutions, the actual what to do. We know the why, but let's get practical with the how. The daily brain challenges themselves. It sounds like there's a huge variety, which is good news.
Absolutely. And that's great because it means there's likely something for everyone, whatever your interests or how much time you have. Let's start with, say, puzzles and brain teasers.
Like crosswords, Sudoku.
Exactly. Jigsaw puzzles, logic problems too. These are fantastic for honing logical reasoning, spotting patterns, and giving your working memory a workout. When you do a crossword, for instance, you're not just pulling up vocabulary.
Right, you're deducing things from the other clues.
Precisely, using deductive reasoning based on those intersecting words.
I definitely get that little spark when I finally crack a really tough clue. So what are the core cognitive benefits of these puzzle-type activities?
Well, they really sharpen logical thinking, problem solving. They exercise working memory because you're holding information in mind while you figure things out. Plus, they're great for improving attention to detail and honestly building perseverance. Sticking with it until you solve it.
Yeah, that satisfying click when it falls into place.
Exactly. And you don't need hours. Even just say 10, 20 minutes on a crossword or 5, 15 minutes on Sudoku daily can start building those skills. Best way to start. Just pick beginner levels, don't pressure yourself, and gradually dial up the difficulty.
Okay, puzzles make sense. What about learning totally new skills? That sounds like a bigger commitment, maybe, but also really powerful for the brain.
It is incredibly powerful for stimulating neuroplasticity. When you tackle something new, could be a language, an instrument, coding, even knitting.
Knitting, really?
Hey, it requires complex motor skills, pattern following. Anything new forces your brain to create entirely new neural pathways to handle the new info, the new movements.
I see.
It's also fantastic for memory, obviously, through all the repetition and practice involved. And mastering something new, huge confidence booster. Plus, it really can spark creativity.
How much time are we talking? Does it have to be hours?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Even 15 minutes a day on a language app like, say, Duolingo, or 20 minutes practicing guitar chords. That consistent effort yields impressive results over time. The real key, choose something that genuinely excites you. That's what keeps you coming back.
That intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, then there are memory games. I see those apps everywhere. How do they specifically help?
Right. Those games, card matching, recalling lists, or patterns, they're specifically designed to target and strengthen short-term and working memory.
The brain's RAM, basically.
Good analogy, yeah. They're also surprisingly good for enhancing attention, concentration, even multitasking ability, because you're often juggling multiple bits of info at once. Short sessions, maybe 10 minutes daily, can really help flex those specific cognitive muscles.
Okay. Now, strategy games. Chess, Go, Settlers of Catan, even some video games, right? What kind of workout is that giving us?
Strategy games are brilliant for sharpening those executive functions we talked about earlier.
The brain CEO.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Planning, decision-making, organizing your thoughts. They seriously enhance problem solving, forcing you to think ahead, adapt your plans based on what happens.
Yeah, they can't just react.
Right. And many of them, especially playing against other people, boost social cognition too, trying to figure out what your opponent might do next. Even 15, 30 minutes of online chess or a weekly board game night, really significant cognitive workout.
Okay, that covers a lot of active thinking challenges. But you also mentioned things like mindfulness and journaling. How do they fit into strengthening the brain? Seems different.
They might seem different, but they're incredibly valuable for overall cognitive health. Mindfulness through things like meditation or just focused breathing helps improve sustained attention, your ability to just stay focused. And it helps with emotional regulation. Research shows it can actually lower cortisol levels, that stress hormone. Less stress often means better memory consolidation.
Less mental noise, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. And journaling, especially gratitude journaling or just reflecting on your day, boosts self-awareness, encourages deeper thinking. Again, short sessions, 5 or 10 minutes a day, can make a real difference in managing stress and improving focus.
And finally, What about creative or practical challenges, like
Yeah.
trying new recipes, writing, drawing?
Yeah, these are wonderful for fostering that divergent thinking innovation. They often involve planning, problem solving through trial and error, like tweaking a recipe or figuring out a story plot, and the act of creating something, great for mood and motivation.
So it's not just about logic puzzles.
Not at all. Committing to one new recipe a week or just 15 minutes sketching, it engages different brain circuits, provides a really refreshing kind of mental workout.
It's great to hear the theory, but seeing how it plays out for real people,
Hmm.
that's always more convincing. You mentioned some success stories earlier, Emma, Michael, Sarah.
Absolutely. Take Emma, the college student. Really struggling with focus, memory for exams, she started doing 15 minutes of memory games on an app daily, plus about 5 minutes of journaling.
Hmm.
Tangible results, better recall, grades went up noticeably, and she reported feeling way less anxious before tests.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And Michael, the retiree.
Yeah, he was worried about age-related decline, so he picked up Spanish on Duolingo and started playing online chess about 30 minutes each, daily.
That's a decent commitment.
It is, but he enjoyed it, and the payoff. Started having basic Spanish conversations, got pretty good at chess, and his family just noticed he seemed sharper, more engaged, a renewed enthusiasm.
That's fantastic. And Sarah, the professional.
Right. Busy job, lots of stress, headaches she thought were related. She started with 10 minutes of guided meditation daily and did Sudoku a few times a week.
Simple changes.
Relatively simple, yeah. But she found her focus at work improved significantly. Headaches became less frequent. And she actually credited her improved problem-solving skills, partly from the Sudoku, with helping her get a promotion.
These stories really drive it home, don't they? It's about consistency and finding things you actually like doing.
That's exactly it. Consistency and enjoyment are key.
And it's not just anecdotal, right? You mentioned specific studies backing up these different challenge types.
Yes, the science here is getting pretty solid. That 2018 study on crosswords used brain scans, showed increased activity in the hippocampus, the memory hub, and measured actual memory improvement in older adults doing them.
Real physical changes.
Mm-hmm. And the 2020 language learning study used MRIs, found about a 10% increase in gray matter volume in key brain areas after just a few months, plus more activation in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus during tasks.
Wow, actual growth.
Yeah, even those brain training apps, like Lumosity. A 2019 Nature study showed they could lead to about a 20% improvement in working memory, especially in younger adults.
Okay, so they can work?
They can have measurable effects. And chess. That 2021 study linked regular play to a 25% improvement in planning skills, better executive function.
25%, that's significant.
It is. And mindfulness meditation, numerous studies, like that 2022 one, show it reduces activity in the amygdala, the fear stress center, often leading to reported stress reduction around 30%.
So less stress, better thinking.
Exactly. And what's really encouraging is how these different types of challenges seem to work together, stimulating various brain regions for a bigger overall boost. It's like cross-training for your brain.
Okay, so someone listening is thinking, right, I want to do this. What are some really practical tips to make these daily challenges stick? Building habits is hard.
It really is. First rule, start small. Super small, like 10, 15 minutes a day. Don't try to do an hour right off the bat. You'll burn out.
Makes sense. Manageable chunks.
Exactly. Second, choose stuff you actually enjoy. If you dread doing Sudoku, don't force it. Find a puzzle or game or skill you're genuinely curious about. Motivation is huge.
Find the fun.
Find the fun. Third, set clear, achievable goals. Not just get smarter, but maybe learn 50 new Spanish words this month or finish this 1,000-piece jigsaw in 2 weeks. Gives you something concrete to aim for.
Right, specific targets.
Fourth, build it into your routine. Schedule it. Same time each day if possible. Maybe puzzles with morning coffee, meditation before bed. Use calendar reminders if you need to.
Piggyback on existing habits.
Good way to put it. Fifth, mix it up. Don't do the same thing every single day for months. Rotate activities, maybe weekly puzzles one week, language the next, mindfulness focus after that. Keeps it fresh, works different brain areas.
Keeps boredom away.
Definitely. Sixth, track your progress. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just jot down in a journal or app what you did, how long, maybe how difficult it felt. Seeing progress, even small steps, is motivating. Celebrate milestones.
Give yourself credit.
Yes. Seventh, involve others if you can. Join a chess club, cook with friends, find a language partner. That social element can boost enjoyment and accountability. There's even research suggesting social engagement enhances the cognitive benefits.
Interesting. So community helps.
It really can. And finally, number 8. Remember, this works best combined with other healthy habits. Good sleep, 7 to 9 hours. Balanced diet, think omega-3s, antioxidants. Regular exercise, aim for 30 mins most days. One study suggested combining these factors gives like a 40% boost to cognitive performance compared to just doing one thing.
Wow. So it's a whole lifestyle package, really.
Ideally, yes. The
Yeah.
brain thrives on holistic support.
Those are super helpful, actionable tips. But I imagine people still run into roadblocks, right? What are the common hurdles and how do you get past them?
Oh, for sure. Time constraints are probably number one. I'm too busy.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
The key is integration. Look for those small pockets. Crossword on the commute, language app while waiting in line, 5 minutes of mindful breathing before a meeting. It doesn't have to be a huge dedicated block.
Squeeze it in.
Exactly. Another hurdle, lack of motivation, especially early on before you see big results. Focus on the process, the enjoyment of learning or solving, not just the outcome. And those short-term goals really help here. Finishing one puzzle book, learning one song on the guitar.
Focus on the small wins.
Then there's monotony. If you get bored, switch it up. Try a different app, a new type of puzzle, explore a different hobby altogether. Keep it interesting for you.
Don't be afraid to change activities.
Absolutely. Cost can sometimes be a barrier with premium apps or classes, but there are so many fantastic free resources now. YouTube tutorials, library books, apps like Anki for flashcards. Lots of options.
Good point. Free resources abound.
And finally, self-doubt. Feeling like I'm not smart enough for this or getting frustrated. Remember to start easy. Beginner levels exist for a reason. Focus on your progress, not comparing yourself to some genius online. Every little bit counts.
Progress over perfection.
That's the mantra.
It really is amazing how technology has just exploded the options here. Apps, platforms. Can you talk a bit more about the role tech plays?
Oh, it's been a game changer. Technology has made brain training so much more accessible, engaging, and often personalized.
Like what kinds of tools?
Well, you've got apps like Lumosity, Brain HQ, Peak, where they offer structured workouts, often gamified, targeting specific skills. Many have free trials, and premium isn't usually crazy expensive.
Right.
Language platforms, Duolingo, Babbel, Memrise, make learning interactive, fun. Often the free versions are pretty substantial.
I use Duolingo. It's addictive.
It is. Then meditation apps, Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer offer tons of guided sessions, many free options too. Great for beginners.
Yeah, those are popular.
Online courses, Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy offer structured learning on almost anything, often very affordable or free. And gaming platforms, chess.com, Board Game Arena, let you play strategy games against people worldwide, build skills, often for free.
So many tools.
Tons. The only caution, as we discussed with digital overload, is moderation. Balance the screen time with offline activities, too. Don't replace real-world engagement entirely with apps.
Good reminder. Balance is key. So, zooming out again,
Chris.
what's the big picture? The long-term impact of doing this consistently over months, years. It sounds like it goes way beyond just remembering your shopping list.
Oh, absolutely. Long-term, consistent mental engagement can really enhance academic and career success. Better focus, sharper problem solving. That translates to better grades, job performance, maybe even leadership potential.
Makes sense.
It also genuinely boosts self-confidence, mastering new skills, solving tough puzzles. It chips away at self-doubt, builds a sense of competence.
I can see that. Feeling capable.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, it improves overall emotional well-being, managing stress better, feeling cognitively sharp. That improves mood, relationships, resilience to life's curveballs.
Right.
And crucially, that protection against age-related decline. Building that cognitive reserve, that 2020 Alzheimer's and dementia study, finding a 60% lower risk of impairment by age 70 for people engaging mentally since their 20s. That's powerful.
60% lower risk. That really underlines the value of starting early and just keeping at it.
It really does. Start early, stay consistent. It's an investment in your future brain health.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really feels like we have more agency, more control over our cognitive health than maybe we realize.
We absolutely do. By making that conscious choice, that daily effort to challenge our minds, we really can level up mentally in ways that ripple through our whole lives.
So if we had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways you want people listening to walk away with from this deep dive?
I think the core message is this. Consistent mental stimulation, using a variety of activities you actually enjoy, genuinely strengthens memory, sharpens focus, and boosts problem solving.
Okay.
It's a proactive, empowering way to leverage neuroplasticity, build that cognitive reserve, and protect your brain health long term. So find challenges that excite you, start small, but be consistent. That's the magic formula.
It sounds like those small, steady efforts really do add up.
Hmm.
It's quite inspiring, actually, thinking about the potential we all have to unlock more of our brain's power just through these relatively simple daily practices.
It truly is. It's about remembering our brains are built to adapt, and we have the power to guide that adaptation towards a sharper, healthier, more resilient mind. It just takes that consistent engagement and maybe a little creativity in how we challenge ourselves. So, as we wrap up, what's the one challenge that feels most appealing for you to maybe try or stick with?